All right, welcome everybody. I'm Matt Hoppel, serve on the board of directors for the state chiefs, and honored to welcome our next speaker today. I'm just going to be your classroom monitor. Just going to let you know where the exits are. It's the two doors over here that are blocked by the tables, in our rear exit back here. No, I just had to throw that in there. We know how to move them. No, it is my honor to welcome Chief Waldo to today's presentation, Unexpected Challenges of Leadership. Chief Josh Waldo currently serves as the fire chief in Bozeman, Montana. He's held that position since 2015. He began his career in Tennessee, where he served as the deputy chief of the Oak Ridge Fire Department and the fire chief of the Marlow Fire Department. Chief Waldo is a graduate of Eastern Kentucky University, holding a master's degree in safety, security, and emergency management, and a bachelor's degree in fire science and engineering technology. Chief Waldo holds the Executive Fire Officer designation via the National Fire Academy and holds 3 professional designations through the Center of Public Safety Excellence. He was selected as the State of Tennessee Fire Educator of the Year in 2013 and was recently selected as the Center of Public Safety Excellence Ambassador of the Year 2017. Current Chairman of the International Association of Fire Chiefs Program Planning Committee. Welcome, Chief Waldo.
Thank you, sir. My apologies. If I would have known they were going to read that word for word, I would have just put in there, hi, my name is Josh. I told you to skip all that. So happy to be here this afternoon to talk about leadership and some of the things that you really don't know till you get in the job. How many of you in here today are chief something, battalion, assistant, deputy, blah, 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 all right? A couple of you. My apologies to you folks in the front. You're going to see a lot of my backside. I'll try to do my best. How many of you are captains, etc., company officer levels? Okay, pretty good mix. Career? Volunteer. All right, know your audience. It's always important. How many of you have been in the job longer than 3 years? Your current position, not just the fire service, your current position. Leave your hands up. How many of you have not yet had that moment where you're like, oh my God, why didn't somebody tell me about this? Yeah, exactly. We go through this process of wanting to be leaders in the fire service. And we take these classes. There's books out there, all this stuff, information, right? We're going to soak it all up and we're going to be great leaders. And we do this, right? We go through all these courses, gathering knowledge, get some on-the-job training, complain about how the current chief does it, complain about how the captain runs it, and we know when we get in there, we're going to be better at it, right? We've all been there. May even go to a conference, meet some people. If you haven't figured out, networking is the value of a conference, okay? Education is how we convince the chief to pay for it. Write that down. That's your nugget of wisdom for this life. You go to these conferences, you meet people, you exchange ideas, you're just soaking up more knowledge. You're ready to go. And you get to the point where you're like, I made it. Here it is. Raise my right hand. Probably got family there with you. You promised to, save the world and make the fire service a better place. And you're just going to change everything because this is what you've been waiting for. And you do that and you take pictures with the family. It's a whole lot of fun. We put it on Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is you do today because we're happy. We've made it and we're going to change the world because we know everything now, because we've been to class and we're ready to take on this leadership role. If they like you, they may even get you a cake. Cakes are nice. We celebrate it. The success of the moment, we're really happy about it. And if they really like you, they might even get you a band. Okay? I've never got a cake or a band, so I'm obviously doing something wrong. But we're here. We've made it. And we're ready to jump into this leadership role to lead our department. So we've got this group of people. And here's the thing you got to understand. The minute you raise your right hand and you say, I'm going to be a leader, all your complaints about your budgets and your boards and your city councils and your other departments, those are just trivial issues. Those people are your most important task at this point. Making sure that they are taken care of, making sure that they are safe, making sure they have what they need to do their jobs successfully, that is now your number one priority. The rest of it, it's background noise. And there's days that it'll want to bubble up and you'll feel like it's the biggest problem in the world. But it's always going to be your people that you need to stay rooted in. When you go into leadership, though, I feel like I owe Jason Redmond probably like $500 because he stole half my slides this morning. Right. Kidding. You have to start with leading yourself. If you can't lead yourself, you can't lead other people. It starts with setting the example. Little things. Show up to a call, put your gear on. Set the example. Maintain good physical fitness and mental health. Engage with what's going on with your people. Be a part of that. Training. Are you staying up to par? Because if you're not, they're watching you. You're under a microscope every day. Your actions, your attitude set the course for your department. Now, I'll tell you that I'm not going to tell you I have good days every day, but I try to have more good days than bad days. Because if every time I come around the station or I come out of my office, all I do is tell you about how bad things are and how much this job drives you crazy and how City Hall's doing this to us, nobody in my department is going to want my job one day. You've got to set the positive tone. You've got to make sure that you're leading out front, showing people that we can make it better. This is a good job, and that you have their best interest at heart. That's number one. If you can't lead yourself, though, you'll never be able to do this. If you don't come to work and set what you want out of people, how are they supposed to know what the expectations are? You've got to model that day in, day out, even on the bad days. You've got to show people what you expect out of them. Quotes might be the only words that you'll find in my PowerPoint. I don't like words. I like pictures. And I'm not going to read it to you, but integrity goes a long way. If you tell somebody, you tell your troops, you're going to do something, do it. Back it up. And if for some reason you don't get it done or things don't turn out the way that you expected, be honest with them. Just tell them that. If you don't get around to it, be honest. Hey, I hadn't forgot you. It's still on the radar. I'll get there. They're counting on you. You are the leader. They have entrusted you. They are following you. And if you're not meeting the expectations and doing what you told them you would do, they're quickly going to fade away and find somebody else to follow. Anybody want to take a guess? In order to be a good leader, what do you got to have? I just told you. I give you the word. Followers, right? You got to have followers. If you don't have followers and you're just leading, I think it was, I just lost his name, but it'll come back to me and I'll give him credit for it. If you're the leader out front and you don't turn around every now and then and make sure that people are following you, newsflash, you're not leading. You're just out taking a walk. You've got to have people who follow you, and you get that followership by doing what you said you were going to do. Set the expectations. Follow through on things. Put your people as the priority. If you do these things, as you heard this morning, people want leadership, and they will follow it when they see it. You just got to show it. You've got to exhibit that on a day in, day out basis. So here we are. We're ready to lead. And if this is all we did in our leadership role, this would be the easiest job in the world. Because why? Because we're all pretty good at this. We didn't get to this point in our career if we can't run a fire, we can't lead some training. This is our sweet spot, and quite honestly, it's where we're the most comfortable. If this was, 365 days a year, easiest job in the world. Problem is, I don't know about your community, we don't have a lot of these fires. There's a lot of downtime. Look at that crew. What do you notice about at least the gentleman on the left, maybe the person in the middle? What do you notice about them? Smiling. Why are they smiling? Why are they having fun? They're on a job. At this point, you could get them to agree to anything. Pink fire helmets. We're going to go with, we're going to paint the fire trucks blue. We're going to take away the ice cream in the fire station, and as long as they're on that fire, they'll agree to it. It's when they're their happiest. They're getting to do what they wanted to do. This is when things are the best. Who in here has ever had that conversation about, boy, we could really use a fire? Right? Everybody kind of shakes their head. Now, we'd never tell the public that, but boy, we could really use a fire. Because what happens in between those fires or those bigger events is this guy happens. And I love this guy. Spent a lot of time around this in my career. And it's quite honestly where some of the best conversations happen. It's where we form some of our strongest bonds. A lot of good stuff goes on around here. The problem is when we sit around this guy too long in between fires, these guys right here, they turn into this group. And they're really hard to manage when they get to this point. And the only way we usually correct this is when we have a fire. And then we go back to smiles and everybody's happy. But this doesn't happen enough for us. We don't have a lot of fires unless some of you have traveled in from Chicago or Detroit, and none of you did. We don't have enough fires to keep us at that peak level of engagement. So what do? What are some of the other challenges that we run up against? You've got to keep people engaged. You've got to keep their interest. You've got to know what's going on. That's hard enough in itself. Now let's talk about some of the things that are going to happen that I promise you were in none of those books that I showed you at the very beginning. Human resources. So if you're municipal, you have an HR department, God bless you. If you're a volunteer department, you're probably winging it on your own, and it's hard, okay? What do you do when somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm going to be out of work for 12 weeks because I screwed up my knee? Is that FMLA? Are they on their own sick leave? I don't know. They didn't teach me that on the last fire before I promoted off the truck. I never got that in a Fire Officer 1 class. This is the things that you've got to learn. Payroll, insurance questions, leave questions, contract questions. All this stuff you've got to figure out. I will tell you, and I would venture to say that most of the career chiefs in here would agree with this, I've never got an HR person to answer a question the same way twice. They're almost as bad as attorneys with, well, it depends. Well, if this is the situation. Having a good relationship with your HR people will help you tremendously, just so that you've got that open line of communication ahead of time. So when things come up, maybe you've already talked about it. Maybe you've already experienced it. But don't let your first interaction with the HR department be when things have went south. Now, if you're in a volunteer organization, and I spent a tremendous amount of time early in my career in a volunteer organization, we don't have an HR department. We're winging it. What you do need to do, though, is forge a relationship with either your county attorney. If your county has an HR person, they will help you. They understand the situation we're in. We're providing a service to the community. If they won't, worst case scenario, I'm going to tell you your organization should find some kind of attorney to keep on retainer, because questions will come up that you need answers on, okay? You don't want to wing it with HR issues. Anytime you're dealing with personnel and HR issues, lawsuits should just be dinging off in your head, okay? So whether you have HR or you need to go find it somewhere else, forge those relationships early, because they will get you in a tremendous amount of trouble if you don't have them in place. So if you're a volunteer person, you're tuned out, tune in for just a second, because who's got this problem going on right now? Everybody does, okay? We have a humongous recruitment and retention problem. The volunteer service is still the heartbeat of our profession, but it is declining at a rapid rate. Now here's where I'm gonna challenge you a little bit. Why is recruitment and retention going down? Anybody? This is open forum here. I'll listen to you for a second. Sorry? No sense of community. Millennials. No work ethic. Okay. What? I'm sorry? Call volume? I'm going to push back on you and say, did you tell them the truth when you tried to get them to sign up? How many of your recruitment and retention posters look something like this? Come with us and we'll do that, and we'll do some of this, and oh yeah, we'll cut holes through the roof. It's going to be all kinds of fun. When's the last time you put a recruitment and retention poster up that showed the pancake breakfast or the boot drive? or the 40 hours a month that they're down at the fire station just trying to keep the trucks running, the equipment checked, the lights on. When did you tell them that? When you sold them this, and they want to go on the call, and they want to have the smiles, and they only get this that much of the time, it's going to be hard to get them. And then if you can't retain what you got, they're going to go tell their friends, and then they're going to go tell their friends. One of the best forms of recruitment is word of mouth. You know, I got into the fire service because I had a friend who said, you ought to come down to the fire hall. Looked like fun. I never left. So if you're not telling people up front really what they're getting into, it should be no surprise when they wash out pretty quick. Now, sense of community, can't argue that. I do think that today, I see it in my community in Bozeman, people just don't live in our community anymore, at least the workforce. They're commuting so far out that they don't have that sense of ownership. That concerns me. Millennials, I'm going to push back on you. I'm going to say they got a boatload of potential. Just got to figure out how to tap into them. If I tried to teach a millennial the fire service the way it was taught to me, I can tell you it won't work. Because I learned through a lot of yelling, a lot of repetition, more yelling, but that was the way I was brought up. That won't work, and until we understand you've got to change that method, that delivery, we're going to continue to struggle with this generation. It's just the way it is. I do think they have good work ethic. You just got to figure out a way to connect with them. I'm not saying everybody. Not everybody's cut out to be in the fire service. But I do think this new generation that's coming in, they have potential. We just got to change our methods and how we talk to them and how we try to communicate with them, because we're different and we were brought in different. Here's your other one. Everybody's seen that slide. It's actually a little dated. I'd give anything to do it for 8225 at this point. But who thought, particularly from a volunteer fire department, that one of your biggest challenges would be just putting safety equipment on people? I mean, I can remember the last budget in my volunteer department was $90,000. And once we paid the insurance, the truck payment, the gas, utilities, et cetera, we ran the organization on something like $12,000 a year, almost 700 calls. I look at that now and I go, well, that was insane. What were we trying to accomplish here? We've got a challenge here with how we fund this. Part of that, though, is telling the people when they come in the door, we're gonna ask you to help raise this money. Not only do I need your time, I need you to bring money in through fundraising so I can give you the equipment to go do what I'm already asking you to do for free. It's part of that conversation we should be having with people on the front end. I don't have the solution for volunteer funding. If I did, I'd be giving it away for free and watching everybody excel, but it is a tremendous problem. I'm going to push back on you a little bit, though. If you can't guarantee that your people are going out the door with the proper safety equipment to keep them safe so that you know they can go to that call, they can do their work safely, and come back home, I'm going to say it, you probably need to question if you should ever leave the fire station. And that's a hard thing to say. But our people are the most important thing. And if you can't keep them safe, why would you ever leave? Why would you ever send them out the door? You're setting them up to fail. That's a tough conversation, but it's some that I think a lot of us need to think about sometimes when we're making some cuts, particularly around the safety of our people. Who read this one in their Fire Officer 1 book? Anybody? Got that one? Yeah, I didn't think so. Newsflash. We don't know what to do with this. We are not good at this. Don't try to fix this on your own. I think the peer support programs that we're seeing across the country are fantastic. The key to those peer support programs is know your limits. Know when you're way outside of your bounds. Know when this is not somebody just having a bad day or just got off a rough call. And know what to do. How do you escalate that up? Do you have a psychologist that you can call? Do you have something through your HR department? we're not good at this. If anything, we're probably really bad at it. Because how many of you have experienced or have dealt with somebody in your organization who's dealing with PTSD? Okay? Most people aren't just going to come right out and say, I have PTSD, because they don't even know it. Might see that they're drinking heavily, might be substance abuse, might be sleeping pattern problems, maybe mood swings, all of which we're not trained to handle. We're not prepared for that. Give you a perfect example. Gentleman with a drinking problem coming to work, guys could smell it on him. Be honest, what did we do as the fire service? Ignored it. We didn't send him home. We covered for him. And that's the absolute worst thing we could have done. Because we covered for him on the first day, and we covered for him on the second day, and before you know it, we're 6 months into this. And the first time it makes it to the chief's desk is when they're tired of covering. And then the chief's in the situation of like, well, how long has this been going on? Oh, about 6 or 7 months. Why is this the first time I'm hearing of it? Yeah. Covering for people is the wrong way to do this. When people need help or you see that they're in crisis, do not cover for them. You are not helping that person at that point. You need to get them the assistance they need. And I'm going to tell you again, it's not our wheelhouse. We don't excel here. If they catch on fire, we're really good at that part. But until they catch on fire, you don't know what to do with this. Unless you're a licensed psychologist, and I doubt any of you are. I'm not. So knowing that this is real, that it's in our organizations, and that we don't know what to do with it is the first step. Again, peer support is great. Make sure your teams, if you have them, they know how to escalate these things up appropriately. Okay, we have some confidentiality issues that we need to worry with, but make sure they know when they get the lowdown, they're like, whoa, I'm out of my wheelhouse. They know what to do with it. Because the worst thing we could do is say, I can't help you, good luck, I'm going back to the truck. Okay? Who's dealt with that one? Way too many of us. Okay? As the leader of an organization, if you've never been through this, you have no clue what you're in for. Aside from the emotional just concern for the member, their family, everything they're going through, wait till you deal with insurance. They're going to want every call that person's ever been on. They're going to want their gear. They're going to want their gear inspections. They're going to want their gear cleaning. They're going to want their physicals. They're going to request so much information. You're going to need like a part-time person to pull all this out. It is off the charts what they want when this situation happens. You've got to balance this, though. You've got to make sure that you get whatever that is requested to take care of that employee from an insurance standpoint. You also need to make sure that you're taking care of that employee and whatever other needs they have. You promised you'd take care of them when you raised your right hand and took your oath. It doesn't stop just because they're out of work. Whether that's making sure that they're getting everything filled out with HR, making sure that kids got what they need. It's a member of our family. We all preach that this is a brother and sisterhood. Well, this is where you get to show it. Okay? These are long, long processes. These do not go away in a week. These are months, year-long processes that you have to remain engaged in. This is part of your responsibility as the leader. You have to be able to deal with this. We doing any better on this one? No, we're not. Our numbers look different now because we're looking at other things such as cancer. We've added in a global pandemic in the last year. But I'm going to tell you our overall numbers for our firefighters when it comes to cardiac-related illnesses, it's not getting much better. So I'm going to push back on you again. How many people, well, I won't make you raise your hand. I'll just say it. An annual physical for your employees should be priority number one. If you can't make sure that they're physically fit and that they're good to go, you should never put them in turnout gear. The first question somebody's going to ask, though, is, those are really expensive, I can't afford those. Then should you send them out and put them in an IDLH to start with? I've seen departments that have decided we can't afford physicals. They're too expensive. So what do? They change their model. They still go on the call. They just don't put people inside of an IDLH. They can't put them in a respirator. They don't put them in that air pack. They're a defensive-only department. Maybe that's the answer for some of us. If you can't ensure that people are healthy and they're ready to go, again, you're setting them up to fail when you put them in these situations. Chiefs in the room. Show of hands. I'm going to pick on you, Brad. Brad's a volunteer chief, by the way. Volunteer chief. Brad, how many hours a week you put in at the fire hall? Yeah. Where'd my other hand? Jeremy, how many hours you work a week? 50? Okay. If anybody tells you that leadership is a Monday through Friday, I punch in at 8, I punch out at 5, they're misleading you. You've got to understand that. Now, I'm not telling you that you got to work 70, 80 hours a week. You just need to have some clarity when you go in of what this job really entails and what you're going to be doing. You might be working Saturdays, you might be working Sundays, if you're on call. It is what it is. And for the volunteers, you folks get this. For the career personnel, I couldn't tell you the last time I saw 40 hours. And I'm okay with that. It's not a complaint. I want to make sure that when we go into these roles, we understand what we're getting into from the very beginning. Because it's a struggle. You're constantly fighting it. You're double booked for meetings. You got to be at a public appearance. You want to get by training. You want to get by the stations. And you just can't turn the clock back sometimes. You are going to run out of time, and you got to be okay with that. Maybe a little outdated. Imagine it's an inbox on an email. I will say I think one of the things that still amazes me is the amount of reading that I'm required to do in my job. I think as you get into leadership, the amount of reading, whether it's memos, reports, research that you have to do for an upcoming meeting, still really kind of blows me away some days. But you need to know that that's going to be a part of the job. And then there's this thing. What is that? Devil, handcuff. There's some other good ones. To me, it's the electronic leash. You are never away. We've been here for, we're going on, 8 hours today, and I would say 2 or 3 of mine have been glued to that thing right there. Because you can't get away. I'm going to tell you, you need to figure out how, though. You can't completely shut it off, but you need to take time, whether it's a Saturday every now and then, when you go on vacation, turn it off, put it in a drawer. You will be amazed at how quick your mindset will change. You will feel it lift off of you. The handcuffs will come off. The devil will leave. The leash will come off. I get it's part of our job. But you've got to figure out a way to, at some point, unplug that thing and step away. Yes, sir. So is the off button. Well, they can leave a message. And how do you do that? That's the other thing. You got to trust your people, all right? I'll brag on my folks. I have battalion chiefs who run our shifts. I don't worry about it. They've got it covered. Now, do I get up and go to fires? Yeah, because I'm a nerd and I want to dork out on some fire. But if I don't go, I know they're going to be just fine. That's why they're there. That's why they're in those positions. And they know if they need something, they can call me. I'll answer the phone. But you got to have trust in your staff. If you can't trust your staff, you're never going to be able to unplug. You've got to build that so that when you do need to unplug, you can walk away and know that things are going to be handled. Because it's a balance. If you're not careful, and I'll tell you, I teeter on that line from time to time, you will get out of balance here. And you'll find yourself doing 60, 70 hours a week. It's Saturday, you're in front of the computer at noon, and your significant other is doing this, which is code for put the computer up, I'm over you, okay? Find an outlet, hunting, fishing, exercising, sports. I don't know what it is. You pick yours, but you've got to find a way to unplug and get away from it. If not, it'll eat you alive. You've got all this work, and then you get these curveballs that we've kind of talked about. If you don't have a way to unplug, recharge, you will drown and you will burn out. Guaranteed, 100%. Dr. Taylor will back me up on that at some point in time tomorrow. Burnout is real. And if you don't find a way to get away from it, you will burn out. You can't just plow through it. If you do, you'll have a very miserable retirement, I promise you. You've got to figure this out. Because you got these pictures here, right? And these are cool, fun, happy family. It's a great job. We're blessed that they let us do it. But keep in mind, for every picture that you have like this, there's one that looks like that. Our families sacrifice enough for us. Whether it's the 24-hour shift, the 48-hour shift, it's the volunteer pulling 40 hours a week on top of a 50-hour job. Our families are giving up a tremendous amount. And I don't want you to forget that. So as much as you can get consumed in your work, work will be there tomorrow. You only have so much time in the day. Make sure you're putting it where it needs to go. So let's end on a high note. It's getting close to happy hour. I'm going to end on a positive. It's the best job in the world. All this stuff included, still the best job in the world. Name one other profession that we could pick the phone up right now, call Boston, Mass, and say, my kid's over there and they got a flat tire. Can somebody from the firehouse go help them? Well, they'd send 2 engines and a ladder truck. And they don't even know us. It's the greatest job in the world. You walk into any place in this country, and the minute 2 people figure out they're firefighters, they're trying to exchange challenge coins. It's unlike anything else. We've got something special here. I don't want us to lose sight of that. It is a family, and we are going to fight. The key to that is when you have those disagreements, just like you do with your brother and sister, get through it. Move on. Have your disagreements. Don't dwell on it. Move on. This right here is invaluable to us. Name any other profession that will do that right there. We've got something special. We don't want to lose it. The other thing about this that's just amazing to me, oh, wrong button, is the amount of people who are willing to help. I could call 20 people in this room on Monday and go, hey, I'm jammed up. I need some help with something. Yeah, what you need? Not, I'm busy. I don't have time for that. Yeah, call somebody else. No. I call 20 different people in this room, people that I meet at this conference for the first time. And I call them up and go, hey, I'm jammed up. Need some help. Yeah, what you need? There's people that are willing to help. There's always people that are willing to help. Always going to be there with their hand out. We've all got our struggles. None of us have anything that's unique, regardless of what you might think. There's always people who've been there. There's always people who are going through the same thing. So don't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, I need some help with something. If you've got great ideas, I'm going to steal them. I will thank you for them, but I'm going to steal them because I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel on a lot of this stuff. Okay? So with that, be brief. I'll answer any questions. Happy to be here with you this week. So we'll open it up. It's too close to happy hour. Kind of figured. All right. I'll stick around. Thanks, everybody, for stopping in. We're going to the vendor social, right, Chief? Right? So stop back in. I think we have refreshments in there this go around. Yep. I'm getting the head nod of yes. And we will see everybody from 5 to 7 in there. So thank you.